Simon Conway. On Des Moines News Radio, 1040 WHO.
Okay, 284-1040, 800-469-4295. We have Ed Fallon in the studio with us right now. And I'm very pleased to welcome Ed to the show. Are those headphones working, Ed?
Oh, yeah, working just fine, Simon.
Excellent. Well, you are very welcome. We haven't actually done this yet. We've spoken a couple of times, but we haven't had you in here yet. And I've been here 18 months, so this is overdue, really.
It is indeed. I was surprised to get your message this morning, but I said, sure, why not? I'd love to come on and tangle with my favorite former Englishman.
Yes, and I'm glad you got that part right. So few people managed to get that part right, so it's good. Now, why don't we start off with something we agree on? Okay. When it comes to politicians, I'm in the school of most of them pretty much suck.
Okay, we can probably agree on that. We probably have a different list of who sucks and who doesn't.
I doubt it. I mean, there was a really sucky one out of Florida today, a state rep who was running for re-election. He's been named in a prostitution and bribery scandal, and I had no problem outing him.
Haven't heard of him, but he sounds like he would be in the suck category.
Yes, he's definitely in the suck category. He's a Republican, but I'm not. You see, I'm not a Republican.
You got to put Steve King in that category as far as I'm concerned.
For what?
Sucking.
Just generally sucking?
No, badly sucking.
Over what issue in particular?
You name it.
Okay.
Immigration,
now you see, I would
equality.
put Christy Vilsack in that category.
See,
because first of all, she looked me in the eye and has lied to me. Held my hand, looked me in the eye and lied to me.
That's almost a touching moment.
Yes, it is, really. It was in our elevator. She said she was going to come on the show.
Oh.
It's not here yet. Still waiting.
Yeah, well, you probably have as much luck with that as I do.
Well, but the point is, she said so. See, there's one thing about inviting them. You know, we invited Leonard Boswell on. We're going to talk about him very shortly. We invited them on. They called us back and they declined, and that's okay.
At least you got a call back.
We got a call back, exactly. Christy Vilsack's office, not so much. All right, so look, the main reason you're here, we're going to deal with this first, and we'll probably take some calls because you attract phone calls, 284-1040, 800-469-4295. But you send out an email once a week, which I read religiously, you'll be pleased to know.
I am tickled.
Yes, I'm sure you are. You started off today saying you're most certainly not going to vote for Leonard Boswell.
Actually, I started off by saying I'm most certainly going to vote for President Obama.
You did. We can cover that with pleasure. And that was your first sentence. Your second sentence was, I am most certainly not, in capital letters, voting for Leonard Boswell. I am also not voting, not in capitals this time, for Tom Latham. But you are, I'm paraphrasing now, going to write in Mayor County, of all people.
Yeah, I think Frank County has done a fantastic job as mayor. I think he has good priorities. He's very responsive to constituents. I think he would make an excellent congressman. Big
proponent of our awful traffic cameras, which me and the ACLU are on the same side over.
Yeah, that must make you a little uncomfortable.
Not at all. I love it. Listen, I've reached out to Democrats since the moment I got here, and the ACLU, and Ben Stone and I from the ACLU were completely on the same page. We actually handed in my petition. It was my petition, but I invited him to come along with me. We handed it in at the State House together.
Yeah, see, and I'm not a fan of traffic cameras, but I think it should be a local
County
issue.
Is.
Yeah, well, that's a small issue. To me, the fact that he's been a leader,
little unconstitutional.
He's a leader on environmental issues, on climate change issues. He's got a solid stance on campaign finance reform. I mean, I think though he's probably the only environmentalist mayor who owns a fur company, but he's got a strong commitment to.
You don't find an
issue
with that? There's not like a kind of hypocrisy issue with the whole fur company?
No, it's kind of like an inheritance issue. You know, it's in the family 4 generations now, I think.
Yeah.
And besides, I think he could be doing a lot with roadkill. I've been trying to talk to him about going into business together, scooping up some roadkill, making some furs out of those roodkill.
Yeah,
you know?
Lovely.
That could work.
I look forward to seeing you in your raccoon coat.
It won't be me.
Well, listen, you went on and you said there are a number of reasons you won't be voting for Boswell, and I've got to deal with the first one, which is literally number 1 on your list, lack of integrity. And you made an allegation. You said very clearly that Boswell tried, I'm reading this directly, mine include Boswell sending an aide to bribe me with the offer of an $80,000 a year job to not run against him.
Yeah,
Tell us about that.
Well, right after the caucuses in 2008, someone approached me and says, hey, look, Boswell is trying to encourage you not to run, and he would like to offer you an $80,000 a year job with his congressional staff. And I was like kind of blown away by that.
Yep.
And then also said that he would consider not running in 2010 and would endorse me. So I just kind of left with my head, shaking my head about that. I never had any intention of saying yes. It just
okay.
I mean, it's just
so he wasn't
unsavory.
he wasn't offering you a campaign job. He was actually offering you a government job. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So a taxpayer funded job.
Yes.
Okay.
And then that was reiterated a day or two later in a second meeting with somebody else.
All right. So this is 4 years ago, Ed. Why am I finding out about it now?
Well, you just haven't been paying attention, Simon.
You've said this before publicly? Come on.
I've never said it publicly. I've said it to other people, but there's no particular reason.
You've never asked me out for a beer. Maybe you'd have said it to me privately.
I did suggest we get together for lunch, and we could have had a beer during lunch. That would have been fine.
So why have you kept this quiet for 4 years?
I wouldn't say I've kept it quiet.
Okay, whatever formal words you want to use.
I've actually mentioned it. I may have mentioned it in passing on my program before. I think I have, in fact, but this is the first time I've publicized it broadly. And to be honest with you, I did not expect this kind of response. I certainly didn't expect to be sitting here in Simon Conway's studio today.
Well,
a rare treat.
I think it's a big deal. I mean, I've got to tell you, I think it's a big deal. You see, a lot of people would say, well, if this happened in 2008, surely this would have helped your primary challenge in 2008 if you say, hey, look, the guy just tried to bribe me.
Yeah, but I don't work that way. I think, okay, just or whatever, move on. Let's get back to the issues. My campaign was focused on issues. Interestingly, Boswell had some of his operatives file an ethics complaint against me on something that was totally bogus, and it was proven such after the ethics committee finally dispensed with it. But of course, during the campaign, you raise those things, you get people thinking, well, maybe this guy's unsavory, and then when the final ruling comes in, there's no coverage at all. Nobody's paying attention anymore.
So how was this offered to you? No one's ever tried to bribe me before. How does this go down?
Well, I mean, just I'm not sure.
Were you in a restaurant? Were you in a bar? Were you at home? Was it on the phone?
I think it was at home the first time, and then the second time was.
They came to your house, or or it was on the phone.
The first time it was both were face-to-face meetings. I think the first one was in my home, if memory serves, and the second one was in a coffee shop. Okay. Yeah.
And how was it done? I mean, it was a direct. Here's the money. Take the money. Go away.
No.
What was it?
It wasn't a check. It was just an offer of employment, coming with a specific price tag in terms of salary, which again is way more than I've ever made in my life in a year. But again, it was unsavory. One thing that bothered me is I had people commit to working on my campaign. One of them was a single mother with 5 kids who quit her job of 11 years because she believed in the issues I was raising and wanted to help. She quit her job, and what was I going to tell her? Oh, by the way, I just decided to take a job for 80 grand with Boswell. You are SOL. I'm not going to do that. And beyond that, it's just wrong. You don't take a bribe. You just don't do that if you have any kind of political integrity.
So who offered this to you?
I'm not saying. I don't want to get into that.
Okay. So you don't want to name them?
No.
Okay, that's fair enough. Can you tell us, were they employed by Leonard Boswell?
I'm not going to get into any more details than that. I mean, if it, I see now that somebody with the Boswell campaign is saying they're going to sue me, which is remarkable. They really don't want to do that because somebody would have to commit perjury. If it comes to that, I suppose I would have to name names, but I'm hoping that that isn't the case.
Okay, so you're not going to tell us who they are, which is fine. I completely understand. And you're not going to tell us if they were employed by the congressman either for campaign purposes or in his congressional job. I
just say they were close to the congressman and came in an official capacity.
Okay, all right. Well, we're talking to Ed Fallon. There's all kinds of other things on his list, by the way, which we'll get to some of those. Also want to take a couple of phone calls, if that's okay.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, let's bring Deb on the phone first of all. Hi, Deb.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Hey, Ed, I'd like to know, if it wasn't a big deal then, why is it a big deal now?
Well, it's a big deal. It's a big deal because Simon Conway called me, I guess. I never decide what I'm going to put in my weekly update, usually until I sit down at my computer and start working on it. And, I could just as well have written an update about how horrible a Congressman Tom Latham is. I mean, I am not a fan of Tom Latham at all. I hope this is his second to last term in Congress. And, you know, I hope this is Boswell's last term because I'd like to see somebody in there who could actually begin to represent the public interest.
So stay there, Deb. I'll let you come back. So let's be clear about what you just said on this program. You just said that although you're going to write Frank County in, you're clearly not an idiot. He's not going to win, right?
Obviously.
Okay,
He's not going to
so
win.
Frank County is not going to become congressman.
No, the reason is
you would
to
like to see. I just want to be clear. You'd like to see Tom Latham elected this time and then kicked out in 2014.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, I wouldn't. Let me say, I wouldn't like to. I don't want to see him elected, but he's not. There's not really any options, and I think it's a clearer shot for somebody like Frank County, somebody who has, again, a strong track record of commitment to the issues that I care about, that I think are in the public good. It's an easier contrast to see that person working, campaigning against Tom Latham. The problem is you're never going to see another primary challenge against Boswell. I followed those waters. I gave it my best shot. It didn't work. Nobody else is going to try to do that.
Okay. Deb, is that a good enough answer for you?
I guess.
Okay.
In other words, not really.
Thank you very much. All right, let's go from Deb to Tammy. Hi, Tammy.
Hi.
Hi, Tammy.
Hi. First of all, as a Democrat, I really support you in writing in county instead of Boswell. What I'm wondering, he seems to like to push people around. Did or do you feel intimidated by him?
By Leonard Boswell?
Yes. And
Oh,
what
yeah.
would you ask him in
Hang on a
public
second.
if you
Hang
could?
on. We'll save part two, Tammy.
Well, what I would say is, I used to respect Leonard Boswell. I thought he was a decent fella, and it was just on issues that I disagree with him. But I saw a really ugly side of him when that campaign started in 2008, and it has, admittedly, it has soured me on him personally as well as politically.
And what was the second part of the question, Tammy?
What would you ask Mr. Boswell in public if you could?
That's about as hypothetical a question as you can get because that ain't going to happen. I mean,
Tammy, thanks very much for the call, Tammy.
Thank you.
We try to make that available to you, Ed. We invited the congressman on, and they called back and said they were unavailable or were going to decline. All right, look, we're going to take a very quick final timeout. Then we're going to be back to wrap this thing up with Ed Fallon. And your phone call, 284-1040, 800-469-4295. This is News Radio 1040 WHO. Okay, we are in studio with Ed Fallon. One of the reasons we brought Ed in was his email this morning, which said that Leonard Boswell tried to bribe him in 2008 to the tune of an $80,000 a year job not to run against him. And Ed ignored that and carried on running and brought this to the world's attention this morning on his blast email. And now apparently they're threatening to sue you. You just saw that.
I don't know whether that's just Grant Woodard with the campaign blowing smoke or whether they mean it, but that would be kind of an incredible stunt to pull off because you would have to commit perjury. I mean, I'm absolutely telling you the truth, and I don't imagine it's that uncommon. I mean, gosh, a congressman bribing somebody? Wow, that's never happened before. I mean, I'm sure it happens on the Republican side as well. Maybe more often. Who knows?
Well, maybe. I don't know. Let's bring Edwin to air to ask you a question. Edwin?
Yeah, Ed, I was just wondering if you were aware that, or I just wanted to bring up the topic that, bribing someone to take a federal position is a federal crime. Am I mistaken?
I wasn't. I was not aware of that. I hadn't thought of it as a government job. But you're right. Again, I just kind of put it behind me and says, okay, let's get down to the campaign. Let's start talking about issues. And then when it was over, I was just done with the whole thing. I mean,
sure,
it was an exhausting experience.
You were saying that Boswell was offering you a job in his official staff in D.C. Or one of his district offices that is funded by, or that the salary is funded by taxpayer dollars. Yeah,
it's a good point.
Thanks, Edwin. Appreciate it. Do you regret putting this in your email this morning?
No, but it has made for a more interesting day than I had expected.
Yes, I bet it has. But you don't regret doing it?
No, there are times when I do regret saying something or writing something. I did hesitate a bit last night, but I thought, and again, Simon, that was only one of 5 points that I made.
Oh, absolutely.
I think,
absolutely.
I think to me the other points were just as important in terms of why I don't want to support Leonard Boswell. And again, you probably have a whole different take on the race.